Welcome to the 8th episode of Biomimicry Ecotone. My name is Gama. I'm here today with my co-host, Hugo.
We are so delighted to have here Beth. So if you want to know a little bit more about the Biomimicry Institute, please go to biomimicry.org. Beth is the executive director. So another entry point is through the global networks and really populating. And we are not just doing biomimicry, but we are related in many different topics, such as regeneration, living machines, biomimetics, biophilia, circular economy, even the space, the natural reserves, indigenous knowledge. So biomimicry is connected to all these kind of things. You can see, I also wanted to share some inspiration with the community that is here by visualizing all the networks.
That the Institute is the nonprofit, and it is, I like to say that Janine was our common mother. We were one organization at the time, Biomimicry 3.8, and that had a nonprofit arm and a for-profit arm. And so we separated. It was really IRS restrictions. And I was massively remodeling, like painting and taking out insulation and probably dealing with all sorts of toxic asbestos and other chemicals. And I started to learn about the toxicity of the world. A friend plopped 2 books on my desk. One was Cradle to Cradle, and the other one was Biomimicry. And I ended up becoming the executive director for both organizations just through like sheer, be careful what you read, because if you fall in love, this is what happens to you. Like, I have to dedicate my life to these things. All we were doing with Western technology was having a toxic system that was putting profit first. And now we were trying to export it to new places that had zero infrastructure for waste management, for take back, for any of the things that was going to be critical for if you're going to expand, you know, iPhones everywhere, printers everywhere. What are you going to do with all that waste? Bill McDonough and Michael Brungart, who wrote Cradle to Cradle, asked me to come on board to help them write the sequel, which has now become the Upcycle. And I stood on so many stages saying, like, there's a technical metabolism and there's a biological metabolism. As long as we keep these 2 things in separate spheres, we can make as much stuff as we want. And now I think that's pretty flawed thinking, because it isn't like this, it's like this. The technical operates within the biological. Always. We are one planet. And it reminds me of how John Warner says that you can graduate with a degree in chemistry, an advanced degree, without ever taking a toxicology class, which is crazy. And so same thing, you can go through a lot of sustainability classes without ever taking a biology class, because it's always about managing for circularity, which right now in the vernacular means recycled.
I think that maybe you can become a scientist without being in contact with nature.
Yes, you absolutely can. You can live in a very siloed way. We're about education and entrepreneurship. If biomimicry as a meme is going to be successful, the stories have to come from all over the world. They have to be very relatable. It can't always be like at Harvard or at MIT or at this, you know, even just at Utrecht. It has to be at like anybody can do this and they can be successful at it. And Ask Nature is there really to support that entire pathway. It's not just about emulate, right? It's not just about how do you learn from nature and then make something. It's about the ethos. It's about the reconnect. So to me, the way that the network and B-Specs and B-Pros play a critical role is infusing that, having lots and lots of little points of light. That's why I love your map.
So how can we create actually intergenerational exchange of experiences?
The reason why the challenge format works for us is because we have these 3 pillars to the Institute, which is what we call access, practice, and then change. And access means this sort of democratized way to learn biomimicry. You have to practice biomimicry if you're going to be called a biomimic. So we have these youth design challenges, and we had the global design challenge, etc. Media outlets are calling us all the time. Tell us what's happening in biomimicry.
Which one blew your mind most?
Actually, like the ones that are most inspiring to me are the ones from the kids. The ones that come actually out of the 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And the reason why is because they are, we like to say, there's an expression in America, like you're punching above your weight, meaning like you're actually outperforming something that you're not really capable of doing.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what the Launchpad is all about?
So Launchpad is for super early seed stage companies who are committed to a biomimic idea. We help them work on their pitches. We help them refine their biology so that they really have a deep biomimicry story. We help them tell that story through communication coaching. And we also then help them get some early seed money.
As a snippet of maybe your own contribution or anyone else's contribution.
The principles of cradle to cradle were very much based upon biological systems and ideas. Recycling first came to the world in the 1970s. It was the plastics industry that invented recycling. Kids became these evangelists for like, we have to recycle if we're going to do our part. Meanwhile, the manufacturers did nothing to change their formulations. They did nothing to help like around decomposition or take back or durability or any of the infrastructure that would have been required. Thinking around cradle to cradle became nothing more than downcycling. Oh, I can take my plastic bottles and turn them into a t-shirt without like understanding that, yeah, eventually that t-shirt also sheds. That t-shirt also will have microfibers. Upcycling was this kind of shift to say like, what does it really mean? What should we really be making bottles out of if we're going to have this kind of regenerative system?
By constraining it into science, I think we are losing the understanding of people that is already living in nature.
That's what we've been at the Institute, we've been going through like a 9-week Indigenous knowledge training course. And it's been a big departure for people who are very science centric to realize that we've been limiting the amount of information that we have on Ask Nature only to what's in scientific journals. There was a new 4th thing that we're starting, which is working specifically with industry on a common problem. And in this particular one, the one that we're doing, we're just launching it now, is around fashion waste.
How does the metabolism of the planet work? Because all the trees that we are taking from one side and putting somewhere else are not fulfilling the local part that they were meant to do.
We're looking at mechanisms for removing the coatings in a non-toxic way and then letting the cellulosics go back.